to Journey On. I'm your host, Brianna Gray. Today we have a special guest who's an Army veteran. He served 10 years as a Specialist 4 and did one tour in Iraq. Although he came back in one piece, his mental health took a turn that led to his purpose. He advocates for veteran mental health, and he is doing that by letting others know that they're not alone. He does this by expressing himself through a camera, and he showcases his impact with his social media following of 500,000 followers. He's been on multiple news outlets. He's sponsored by Harley and Brunt. He's part of the USMV Motorcycle Club. He's raw and authentic. And when somebody thanks him for his service, he thanks them for their patriotism. Please help me in welcoming Amarok Critton.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for listening and giving us veterans a voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're doing. And I think I saw like one, I want to say it was like one reel. I'm very new on TikTok. I tried avoiding it, but but I saw like one reel of yours and I was like, wow, like you just do so well. I don't know if you are behind the camera and do the editing and stuff, but like definitely just the way that you set it up and it just punches people in the face and in the heart. And it's just so powerful.
I wish there was another cameraman. It's all me. My psychiatrist says I have a way of seeing things in a third person point of view. And I guess that rings true for a lot of veterans, being on the outside looking in. So I kind of, and PTSD kind of plays out in your head that way as well, almost in a movie setting. So it just matched my soul and how to communicate with others was through that lens. So
Yeah, you do a very good job. I mean, and even when I look at like other videos, I'm like, oh wow, like you do display it very well. From what I'm sure like my brother went through and all that. And so it's so powerful. I think the one was like the one with like the medication bottles, and I was like, gosh, like like it's one thing when you experience it with somebody that you know personally, but then when you're like, oh wow, this isn't just my story, this is like so many other people, and then to see how it impacts just people that don't even know the military life and how they get like a punch in the heart. It's like, oh gosh, like that's just how tough this thing is to navigate. I know we're like already jumping shit, but what got you started into this? I'm just going to be ranting. We're just going to bounce all over the place. What started you to go into the military?
So it was 9/11. I was in high school at the time, my last year, and I'm sitting in class, and that announcement comes over the intercom, and it was just saying everybody needs to go home immediately. You can either wait for a bus or walk, but this is an emergency. The school is being shut down. As I'm walking through the hallways, I'm getting these like little notes from teachers and other adults talking about planes dropping on buildings. So, I kind of deducted that, I heard the word terrorism and things of that nature, that this had something to do with Iraq. So I start walking home. It's about a 5 mile walk. I didn't want to wait for the bus. I just kind of wanted to process everything. I was worried. My father was a police officer out there in Manhattan. So I'm worried about him. And as I'm walking, I'm staring at the sky, scared to death that a plane's about to drop on my head. And as I'm walking, the more I got afraid, the madder I got. And it just kept going. And every mile I was angry and angrier, and I wanted to do something about it. And by the time I got home and got the real scoop on what was going on, I decided to drop out, get my GED, and join the military quicker.
Wow. And so what, you were probably like 17 or were you 18?
I was 17. I was going to be turning 18. I think it was a few months after. Well, yeah, it was about a few months after. It took about a month to get out of school, to get my mom to sign off on the papers and things of that nature. So once I got my GED and I turned 18, I signed up.
You're like, goodbye. How was your mom with it? Was she like, no?
So I was always the black sheep. So I mean, anything I did was going to be coming from left field. She didn't want that because as a parent, they understood. Even my dad was proud of me feeling that way, but they understood that I was joining solely at a time of war. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
just a casual put the uniform on and serve. They knew I would be going into a battlefield of some sort, but they understood. I don't think I've ever been more passionate about anything in my life than that moment when I had that talk with them. It was like, you can either sign me out of school or I'll just stop going until they drop me out.
Mhm.
And you could kick me out of the house. I don't care. All I need is my birth certificate. It just got to that level of, this is what has to happen, guys. This is why I'm alive. This is why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
going to protect my
determined.
family. Exactly. So,
Wow. Have you met other veterans that joined around that same time and like kind of for that similar reason of like just because I feel like that's just such like bravery. It's not like you guys were like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. It was like, oh, I need to do something about this.
well, yeah. So, I mean,
So,
everybody that was in my unit when I went to basic training in AIT and then so on joined at that exact moment.
mm,
Um, I wouldn't say on my part bravery. The thing that stuck with me was an old quote I heard when I was a kid, and it still goes around. It goes, "You're not brave if you're not afraid."
mm,
Uh, I just the fact that I was so scared of dying, of my family dying, and us getting killed from a direction that's unexpected. I always said the way I wanted to go was I wanted to see it coming. I wanted to see it, the bullet coming at me. This wasn't that, and I thought that was such a horrible way to take people out. And I just, yeah. But yeah, a lot of veterans here now and then were joining because of the same reasons of, okay, we have to do something now. We're innocent
yeah,
people are getting killed.
yeah. And then you did a tour in Iraq, which I mean, you mentioned in other like interviews and stuff, like you had a bunch of
Hmm.
different. Did you have those different titles um, just over there? Or was just like that, like logistics, will guard Iraq civilian workers, convoy support, and at the hospital. Was that all stuff just specifically in Iraq, or was that just in your service in the army in general?
It depends on the unit. So when
Mm,
you're deployed to these fields or these bases, your unit's given a specific mission. So depending on when you fall in line, it depends on what your missions are. We were literally just filling a hole that was not there before we got there. So yeah, it just depends on the unit and what you're doing. I went in as infantry, and there was only three of us in this actual unit. The rest were, I think it was engineers, engineer brigade.
oh, wow.
So we were the gunners. We were the ones that did the shit work, if you know what
Uh,
I mean. So,
yeah. Do you guys ever like cross paths with other branches, like when you were in Iraq or anything?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
not just branches, other countries. I mean, we came across Canadians, we came across Ukrainians, we came across the Turkish soldiers, we came across Ugandan
Oh, wow.
soldiers. I mean, when I say like a melting pot of not just our branches, but other military branches across the world, it was insane.
That's
We met
crazy.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I never thought about that till recently. And I was like, wait a minute. I wonder if, because I mean, it's not like they just sent the army to Iraq. I'm like, my brother is a Marine. And I'm like, he went to Iraq. So I'm like, do they just like section you guys off? Like, you're going to cover this part, you're going to cover this part. But I'm like,
Yeah,
that
no,
doesn't make
no,
any sense. They're just like,
no.
throw them all together.
So it also it depends on the base. I was in Anaconda,
Yeah.
which was
Mm.
also called Border City, and it's a huge fob. And for people that don't know what that means, it's just the base that we were stationed at. And we had Ugandans; they were actually covering the walls. So it was a melting pot of people serving their countries and fighting for the same cause.
Gotcha. So it's like more working together
Yeah,
with them. Oh,
absolutely,
that's fascinating.
absolutely.
Wow. I didn't realize that it was a lot more than just us over there kind of trying
Yeah,
to
no, it wasn't
handle
just
business.
yeah, it doesn't wasn't
Yeah.
just America fighting.
Yeah. We make it seem like we're that important, but I
I
mean, we
know.
kind of are. We are. We are. Let's not lie about it. There is one thing that you've said about missions. Oh, I love it. I love what you said. You said that you tell vets to make it their mission to find their own happiness, because when you have a mission, you'll do anything to complete that. And I was like,
Yeah.
say it louder for the people in the back, and like we need a banner of that, because I mean that's
Yeah.
really, I mean, in the military that's really like what you guys are kind of drilled to do, right? Is like you get told like your mission, and like your duty is to complete that no matter what it takes. It's like if you need to, you know, make a
Yeah.
path, like you're going to make a path to finish the mission.
No, and it's like they say, we get fed, we get housed, clothed, and we develop this thing of, just tell me what the hell you want me to do. I got you. And that whatever that mission is like, all right, now I know exactly what I need to pay attention to and to focus on to be
Mm-hmm.
the best soldier I can be, and this way we can all get home. And then you get back to the States and there's no mission, there's nothing. You don't know what to do. So yeah, having a mission for a veteran is literally life saving.
Have you told other vets that, and like have they received it well? Like,
Oh,
was that more
absolutely.
understandable for them to receive it that way instead of just be like, be happy, kind of
Yeah,
thing?
find something to do. I always say that, like, so when you yes, it's very well put and it's very well received, and it's not like it's my idea. It just came to me, and I'm sure other veterans feel the same way of that understanding. Hence, you got Mission 22, and there's
Mm,
Mission Phoenix. The idea of having a mission for a veteran should come natural. I in no way, shape, or form patented that concept. They just forget that they're missing the mission. And sometimes it takes one of other veterans to say, you need something to do that is worth dying for again. And
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, oh, just that needs a moment. Like
yeah,
something worth dying for. Because I mean, like I mean, I know like people kind of get it. Like, oh, they sign it, like they sign the dotted line and everything. But really, I mean, you guys, I mean, most of you guys are like, fresh 18-year-old
kids. Yeah,
training to be men, right? Like I wouldn't say an 18-year-old is like a man, right? Like
no, not at
they're
all.
a young man, and then they're signing that dotted line. They're filling out their will or whatever. I don't know if it's a will or a trust, but you guys are filling those things out and then going off and pretty much being trained to be men. And then you guys come back, and then it's like,
Yeah,
all right, you're back, kind of thing. It's
and then you get back. You're still a kid, but
mm,
then you slowly start to realize you're looking at men that are twice your age that haven't seen what you've seen in the past 6 months in their lifetimes. They have no relatability to you, and you're still a kid. So what happens is you become an old soul really quick. It's
did you feel like a kid, or was it just like kind of like when we get in an environment, we kind of resort back to what the environment kind of tells us? Like, did you feel like you were that immature kind of kid, or was it like, oh crap, I haven't been a civilian since I was a kid, since I was.
not not. I don't know if we're getting to that yet, but not until no, not until I'm saying this wrong. I was not a kid when I got back from Iraq. It wasn't just the experiences I had in a war zone. It was experiences that I was having to deal with while I was out there, happening back home as well. Again, I had the three missions, like you said. There was convoys. We worked in hospital security, and we also worked in burn pits. Now, currently and permanently, I'm 100% considered disabled. That's from the cancer I got from the burn pits. They actually had to remove pieces of my intestines and the PTSD. My convoys were uneventful in the best way. Like I said, I was a gunner, my head sticking out. Sure, that paranoia was there, but it was uneventful. Like most brothers that I know, it went down there. In the hospitals, I had to watch women that were tortured by their husbands because they were displeased by them. I've watched children pass away in front of me, while my mission was to stand next to the parents with a M4 to make sure they didn't do anything wrong. So as these parents are watching their kids take their last breath, they have a guy standing next to them ready to attack them if they do something wrong.
Yeah.
That weighs heavy. I've had to watch brothers come in pieces, saluted bodies every other day, watched them get wrapped in white sheets, saw the damage that, a weapon can do. Those were all hard, but PTSD can stem from combat and it can stem from other things too. For me, mine's was when I was overseas and uh, I got on a Skype call and found out that my fiance was sleeping with my brother.
Mm,
Um, and that was 3 months into my tour. So I had to real quick understand that I wouldn't be able to focus on any of my missions if I kept that in my head. So I had to push that way, way in the back. That scream is still there. To this day, I wake up screaming from that phone call, literally screaming. And my wife calms me down and so on. But coming back home, that had to, well, my missions were done. So that came right back to the front.
mm-hmm.
So the way I visualized and saw the world was not in the child's eyes anymore. It was more of a, do I kill my brother or do I kill myself? And
Mm.
I had to walk with that for years. So
That's a lot to navigate getting back because now you're just trying to figure out how to be a civilian, but you still have this baggage that is from this part of your life, civilian life.
exactly, exactly.
Uh,
So I had to, like I said, I wanted to go out knowing how I went out. I don't want to
mm,
bomb the drop. I've had RPGs fly over my head, blow up, 20 feet from me and all that shit. But excuse my language. But
no, you're fine.
that was something, and it got me to a point where I felt like I should have died out there. That I must not be worth anything to the people that I was fighting for them to do that to me while I was gone, fighting for them, literally fighting for them. So yeah, led to a attempted suicide with by cop. I walked up to a police officer and punched him in the chest, and instead of him shooting me, he called an ambulance, and that led to a psych ward,
Did you tell
and
him your
that
intentions? Like that's what your intention was, or were you just trying to
uh,
like
no,
fight
he
him?
so no, he knew once. He's like, "What's going on, man?" He actually knew me when I was a kid, so he knew I signed up.
Mm,
I wanted to be somebody I knew, and like I said, instead of him, knocking me out or whatever, he held me down, got on the radio, made the call. They came, and by the time they came, I'm sitting there crying, and they took me to the ward. And at that psych ward, they gave me medication, and that medication dulled it down, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. So days later, I get out, and I'm off the medication they were giving me, and then I tried to down a bottle of pills. Luckily, my mom came in when the bottle hit the ground, called an ambulance, and it was in that moment, that second try, that I decided to become the man I needed. I said, if I survive this, I'm going to be that guy that says me too, because nobody said that when I got home. Nobody knew about it, and I really thought it was just me that experienced something like that. And it's really the loneliest feeling in the world, and the most worthless feeling a person could possibly feel is that scenario of nobody loving you. And I imagine there being another person out there like me. It can't just be me. And
yeah.
that was it. I was like, you know what? If I make it, if they get this out of my stomach or pump it out of my stomach, I'm going to live for that man that's walking around, or that woman with that same feeling. And I'm going to just scream that shit at the top of my lungs. So,
Well, you're doing it. You already
yep.
you've been doing it, and I mean, I commend you for that because I mean, just saying your story, like that's not, you have to be in a certain place in order to speak up about like about your story, with anybody with a story like just like yours, and just speaking up about it. I mean, what's that? There's that one saying, something about like, oh, say it even if your voice shakes. You're using this as like such a bigger purpose than just yourself.
Yeah, and and that being said too, is the military teaches you that there's more to life than just you. So
Mm,
you're fighting. You're not fighting for yourself. You're fighting for your country. And my story is not at a pinnacle or anything. It's okay with me saying it because it's not about me. The
yeah,
military. You can't complete a mission until you're selfless, until you're not worried about getting killed. And what's going to happen to me? That has to go out the window. you
yeah,
know. So I'll be that guy. And I have a few brothers out on these apps that are the same type of men and women, and
yeah,
that's what we do.
yeah. I totally get that. It's like you're kind of being, you're using yourself because you have these skills and you're utilizing them and your experience and everything to be selfless and to impact other people, which is great. I mean, it's like as much as like I can compliment or other people are going to compliment. It kind of reminds me like my brother used to like, all of his, what are they called, like his recognitions in the military. It's like
Yeah,
so many people would be like, oh, you did this and he did this and he did this, and then it's like at the end of the day, like at least for him, he's like, those don't mean shit to me. Like, but I mean,
exactly.
he also had a lot of PTSD. He had a lot of trauma that was in the military. He lost a lot of men, and like, there was a lot of stuff that came from it that he's like, those don't mean anything. Like his buddies, is what meant something for him, and or the country, the flag and all of that. So it's like it's more than just those recognitions and that badge of honor on their
Yeah, it's everybody but
uniform and stuff.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's like you're fighting for the people right next to you. Like it's so powerful. Um, you mentioned something in the beginning about like having to stand there with your weapon while the family members are like crying over their child and stuff. And I just want to make a point that like, I mean, you kind of made the point is people think that you like veterans can come home with PTSD because they seen something or were in something like in say a shooting or something like that. But it's like something as that as like a moral trauma where it's
Yeah,
like you have to stand there and you're like sitting there with a weapon because then you're like, oh, if I have to like take care of these people, then that's my duty. And it's like sometimes you're not going to agree with what your mission is or what you're
yeah.
commanded to do, and then you still like have to do that. And I know that can screw some, that could be
Well,
really hard on people.
it messes. So there's moments, and this is like I said, this is outside of a combat spectrum where when you're deploying to a war zone, and throughout that whole process, there's certain points in time where you almost have to be inhuman, have to be monstrous. You can't have the same feelings as you normally grew up having. Like I said, we were kids.
Yeah.
I had a kid on the way when I was deployed, and to
Oh,
this day, I can't forgive myself for. I had to come to a point where I was able to leave. I got to go fight, and to turn my back on my family and not look back. And you kind of lose a part of yourself when that happens. It's if you thought about it the way you were raised, and you thought with your heart in terms of your family, you would never leave them in a state of he might not make it back.
yeah.
That's what everybody's assuming. He could get killed out there. She can get killed out there. But that soldier has to say, I have a mission, and right now that mission is more important than your feelings. So when you have to look at your child that doesn't even understand yet, you have to look at your wife, you have to look at your parents, and you're like, listen, I don't care if you guys don't want me to go, I'm going. That's another step in a child's life. Like I said, we were young men, that makes you become a man is those. I don't care if you guys don't want me. I don't care if you want me to stay. I'm leaving. I'm leaving you, and I don't think I might not make it back. And that process in itself, there's so much, like I said, to it too. You're no longer a child. by the time you
Yeah.
get over it, your brain is not functioning the way most people's would. So
Yeah. That's powerful. I mean, a child wouldn't be able to take that step. Like, it has to
yeah,
be like a man or a woman to be really like, I'm going to leave my family, and kind of like separating that emotions from the mission
completely
and like that
severed.
ultimate
Yeah,
purpose. I mean, I say it all the time and people kind of laugh at me about it, but compartmentalizing, like, it's
yeah,
really compartmentalizing, like, my family's here with my emotions, now I have to kind of cut them off.
yeah.
And it's like that fine balance between not cutting off those emotions to where you don't feel them, I guess, anymore, versus being able to just complete what you need to do without, crumbling on the battlefield or on your mission and stuff. It's like you have to show up for your brothers and sisters that are hand in hand with you. Um, yeah, you even
Yeah.
had a quote that
Oh,
you
God.
said you learn to detach yourself from your emotions. At some point, we don't feel like we deserve better. Risk no longer means anything to us. Um, can you elaborate on the risk no longer means anything to us?
No, like I said earlier, the first 2 months out there, again, I was in Mortar City, and literally, it's what it sounds like. Mortars are bombs that are dropping all around you. You learn how to sleep, knowing people are trying to kill you in every direction. You can't see it. So, like I said, one thing that scared me the most to this day is not seeing it coming. And I spent my first month to 2 months, once I got to the fob, scared for my life. And I was spending every day trying to figure out how to fall asleep. I was just fearful, fearful, fearful. And just like that moment when you kind of have to detach yourself from leaving your family, you have to accept the fact that, hey, I might die at any second. Literally at any second. You got soldiers. Guy got blown up and he's sitting down just having a cigarette. Um, and that was a risk, right? The risk was you're going to die, and then you start to just. I can't make it make more sense than saying death becomes a friend. You stop.
Mm.
You're not scared of dying anymore. Uh, just letting your brothers and sisters down. So I
Say that
don't
one more time. So, letting them down.
letting them down. Meaning, if I can't be the gunner and I have the training to be a gunner, and they have to put somebody else in that spot that doesn't have that training, I just jeopardized the whole mission uh, because I wasn't there. It's not about like you said, it's not about us anymore. It's about everybody else around us. Um, that risk,
Wow.
there's no more risk. I'm not risking anything. I'm doing exactly what the hell I'm supposed to do. And if I'm worried about myself, that's why I said that selfless thing. I stopped getting scared of getting blown up wherever I was walking to what do we got to do? What's next? When it happens, it
Yeah.
happens. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of
So it's
trailed
like
off
you
from
have
this.
to show up. It's like you're not showing up for you, you're showing up for
Yeah,
everybody else. Wow. I mean, that just
exactly. So,
reinforces like why there is such a strong bond and brotherhood in the military is is just like that. Like,
and, and
you
it
can't just
also
be like, "Oh, I can't risk this." Like, no, I need to do this because if I don't do it, then like you said, somebody else that doesn't have the proper training is going to have to step in here and then they could just screw things up even more.
and it's that mindset that leads to many suicides. People don't understand. Well, how can they do it? How can they do that? We, I don't know how else to word it. Have to devalue ourselves to be there for others. And when by the
Mm.
time you get home, your self worth and value inside you is not. I am not important. If I'm not on a mission helping somebody else, what's the point of me even breathing? Why am I here? I'm just a burden. I wasn't. I'm nobody. That's the whole feeling you get back when you're overseas. It's not about you anymore. It's like he needs help, she needs help, the country needs help. It has nothing to do with me. I need help. I never said that. I don't know any veteran that's been overseas saying those words. I need to do
Yeah.
something for myself. So you get home, and again, that value that you had before you even got in is gone. So that's self-worth mindset.
Wow.
That's a civilian mindset, right? I need to make money so I can get myself this car. I don't care about a car. I
Yeah.
don't care what. You get my whole drift with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, it puts it in a different perspective too. Well, like it shifted like my perspective. I mean, it's more understanding, I think, not perspective. Um, because that was something like after my brother took his life, I'm like, man, like I mean, I just go down the rabbit hole of
Yeah,
various things, and that was something that I'm like was self-worth. I'm like, somebody has to be in the state of mind that like they don't think that they're worthy enough to be here. And I don't know what it is. I said from, I mean, he had childhood trauma and
yeah,
things like that, and then the military, and stuff from there. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like it just beats down your self-worth. And so for you to say that, I'm like, oh wow, like it just kind
yeah.
of reaffirms, I guess, the thought I was already kind of toggling with. That's interesting. Is there anything friends or family can say or do to kind of pull your guys' head out of your ass with the self-worth thing? Because I know that that's going to tie into like those suicidal tendencies or suicidal ideation, as well. So it's like that section of self-worth, like it's like you put yourself, I'm not that important, and then you guys can justify why, right? Like why you're not worthy of being here and all that. Do you think that there's anything like from you being in those state of minds, was there anything that somebody could be like, hey, or is
The
it's
only
all on you?
person I got you. The only person that can get through to a veteran is a veteran. Now, if you have been in a situation where you leave to deploy and you're able to say, I don't care what any of you guys think, to your family, the people that are closest to you, and leave them to go be with other veterans and soldiers and Marines and you name it. Now you have, I mean, the training has led you to just trusting your brothers and sisters. If
Yeah.
you were in my situation, what could they possibly tell me? They destroyed me, my family, right? Um, so if I can't take the word of my family that betrayed me, this is just my personal preference
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
my personal perspective. Um, why? What could they couldn't have talked me out of any of those things,
Yeah.
right? If I had a veteran or a brother that talked to me, there was no social media then, it was just MySpace, but you know,
You're aging
nobody.
yourself.
Yeah, hey, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I got more followers than my kids, so I'm playing. But
Ding.
no, seriously, I personally, and again, I can't speak for every veteran, but if we were able to detach ourselves from our families to go
Mm,
fight for them, right? To do those, it's a monstrous thing. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. I'm going to war. Bye. And I don't
yeah.
got time to talk to you. I got to be on that bus that takes me to the airport in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Deuces. What could they possibly say to me when I got back that they would understand? Because they didn't understand how I was able to just walk away and put myself in a scenario where I could get killed. That in
Yeah.
itself is suicidal.
Yeah.
That in itself is a
It's like you guys
suicidal
are
move.
fighting for such a bigger purpose, way bigger than
Everybody,
yourself.
yeah, everybody
Yeah.
on that plane on the way to Iraq, it was a, I don't know, 12-hour flight. Dead silent, dead silent. Everybody was in their heads.
Yeah.
We're about to get this. This is going to happen to me. Then you get to Iraq and you sit down and you're staring. They show you these videos in Kuwait, and these videos are soldiers getting killed. This guy, don't do this. Watch this video. If you do that, this could happen to you. If you don't pay attention, and you're watching people getting blown up, and these are your fellow comrades. These guys didn't make it.
Yeah.
Their deaths were examples of what we shouldn't do. Um, the more and more you go, nobody is ever going to understand that feeling or experience what we experienced. Just arriving in a combat safe zone, seeing what we were about to go into, and having to man up, and no one said, this is crazy. We had to pretend like we were just ready.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing personally. Like I said, other veterans, sure, maybe. The only thing I think that could pull us out of anything is our fellow veterans. You know,
Yeah.
that's just how I feel. Again, I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but from what I've experienced and who I've spoken to, the only people that ever got help in my line with what I do was from me having a conversation with them vet to vet.
Yeah. Which I agree with you. I just say that, I just asked that question just because like I mean, I can only go from like my perception
Yeah,
of everything, of it all, is like it didn't matter if I said all the right things to my brother. It doesn't matter what I did. It's like at the end of the day, like he would have had to make different choices,
yeah,
or he would have had to have done different things. And everyone's situation is different. Like any veteran that is, succumbs to their demons, they're all different, right? Like they all have different things going on in the last prior 6 months, 2 weeks, whatever. But I think from a lot of people that I've heard and listened to, and even family members, I'm calling them out. I think that what can be toggled is like, oh, I should have said this, right? Like as if they had an opportunity to do something different that they would have listened. But I just think like the way that vets come back, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is just like my thought outside of myself. Like if I was a vet, like I come back and I'm being kind of honored, and then you come back with all this trauma, and then it's like that stuff doesn't mean anything. It's like they can't relate because they weren't there, just like any other civilians. Like we don't get it. And then also I feel like they would want us to think that they're strong and that they aren't having a hard time. So then they want to show up like, hey, everything's okay.
yeah.
Um,
We,
because then
you're
we'll
right.
worry, and then like it'll kind of open that door of the feelings. And it's like that stuff, you can't have those feelings when you open that door.
Yeah, and
Um,
it ties back into the whole fact of having to cut your personal feelings off.
yeah,
Um, the worst, I mean, one of the biggest casualties and unsung heroes are the families uh, that have to put up with us. And that whole guilt. I should have said this or I could have said that, and it's heartbreaking that you and those who have gone through that same emotion have to deal with that. I really wish I can emulate, and I do this. I talk about this too. Is it really is? It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have said or done when they made that decision.
yeah,
Uh, I didn't talk to my mom or my family when I went up to that police officer. I showed up at a movie theater knowing that he'd be working there. Um,
it's like you
I
hyper
took
focus,
those.
right? Kind of like a mission, I'm guessing. Is it kind of like a
Absolutely.
mission? Like when you're in that state, you're like, I'm
This is what I'm
done.
gonna do.
This
This
is
is how
what
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
do it.
do. And it's like, there's no, well, I explain it to many people because I'm in a very good place of like acceptance with my brother's death. Not that I agree with it, but I've accepted that I could have said many things. I could have said a thing. I could have said something that prolonged it, but like the inevitable could have still happened. I have no idea. There's thousands of unanswerable questions, and I'm in a place that I'm okay with that. Um,
You said it
but
just while you're on train of thought.
yeah,
You said it perfectly, and I never heard it worded that way before. And we was talking about this earlier. It's a mission.
yeah,
You are absolutely right. That's what it was. And I didn't even just until you just said that. I didn't even think about it like that. That was a
I didn't
mission.
think about that until I said it
Yeah,
too.
that was a mission. And if
Wow.
I have a mission to go fight the country and have to leave my family behind, that's the mission that takes precedence.
Yeah.
Same thing. That's how that suicide thing is.
Yeah.
It's
It's like everything shuts off. You're hyper focused. This is what I need to do.
Yep.
Yeah, because I've even told. Well, first man, I gotta simmer on that because I didn't realize what I said until you reset it, and I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
that is
and think about it.
that is what it is.
It's not. I mean, we're trained. I'm not going to be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, now I got to say goodbye to my family. Let me have a long talk with them about what I want. This, and the
Mm,
third. No, I
yeah.
got to deploy. Bye.
Yeah.
We'll talk about when I get
And
back. Or yeah,
I've explained. So I mentor other siblings that have lost their brother to suicide. That was in the military, through TAPS, the organization. Not sure if you've heard of them,
I have.
but they I will explain to them that, even when someone's frustrated or stressed out, like their frontal lobe shuts off. They're not rationally thinking. And
No,
someone that is doing that, like they're not rationally thinking, oh, well, how is this going to impact them? Or how can they're, just
exactly.
like the emotions,
Right.
like that is shut off. You guys are just like, they're just hyper focused and just, now I'm like, oh, wow, it is like a mission. So
Yeah.
might have to start saying that
Very,
to them. But I'm like, that
very
stuff
well
shuts off,
said.
that they're not thinking logically, they're thinking irrational. They're just focused on that and that's it. Because
Mhm.
I'm like, any person that would be rationally thinking wouldn't choose
Exactly.
that option, wouldn't think that that would be the right choice. Like they would think that there would be other options available.
Yeah. But when
Um,
it comes to a veteran, soldier, marine, whatever it is, the mission is the only choice. You have to
mm,
see it through. So
yeah,
again, well said. I mean, I couldn't have worded it better myself. You're right.
yeah.
It's a mission.
Wow. So how did I'm gonna this is just tying into it, I guess. Because you've said that Wounded Warrior Project saved your life. Can you touch on that
So
and how you got involved with them?
so man, it's how can I explain this? I had no mission uh during Wounded Warrior Project or before it. What I was doing was I was so isolated, even after the suicide attempts within myself, that I was losing my the relationship I have with my now wife and my kids. And when the Warrior Project gave me the opportunities um, in my location at the time to take my family out, to take them to a nice place, to a Broadway show, whatever it was, and spend time with them so they developed some kind of relationship with me outside of me
Mm.
jumping at every loud noise. Uh,
What year was that, real quick, just so we kind of have a timeline? Because you went in 2002.
I went in at dip 202 and then got out
2010. When did
in
you get out?
the deployment was in 12, so about 2013. When I say it saved my life is that's where I met other veterans.
Mm,
All right, that's so they had these programs they do where you meet up and you go to these places as well with your families, and they get to see other veterans and interact with the families of those veterans, right? So not only are you getting these experiences with your family, but you're also starting to realize, hey, what happened to you? Oh, la 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 la. Oh, this happened to me. Oh my God, this happened, and you start to build again.
mm.
And the more and more I did that, the more I started to realize uh, there's more of us out there. There's another veteran who dealt with the same thing. You start to see these things every event I went to. So when I say it saved my life, it's they just introduced the world of veteran to veteran communication to me.
That's amazing. I mean,
You know?
that really. I mean, I think it stands just what you're saying is that it did save your life. Because I mean,
Yeah,
when we feel isolated and we're alone, like we will get in our heads. And I mean, not
worst
that
thing you can do.
I definitely haven't been in the military or anything. But I have had like postpartum depression, and I have been at my end of my road where I was trying to justify why walking out of my family would be like, oh, that's just what I should do.
Yeah,
And it's the people that are like that support system around us. Because if really wasn't for that, I mean, I called my sister and was like, whoa, I think I'm not thinking properly. This is what I'm
yeah,
thinking is right. And she's like, that is wrong.
yeah.
And so, like for you guys, in order to get around those people, because I mean, even though I'm a civilian, but civilians,
So am
we
I.
can't relate. I mean, I understand from a sibling perspective. So, like, I've been heavily involved in the military community I worked at Universal Technical Institute, and I was like, let me work directly with the veterans. Like, I get where they're at. I get when they start having a moment, and I could recognize it on their face. And I
Yeah,
know kind of what to do in that situation, even though, like, my brother wasn't even, he might have been out for a little bit, but it's like, I seen the change in him. And so I just kind of clicked on, like, I just kind of get that they have a different experience and they have a different perspective and they have
yeah,
anxiety and they have PTSD, that like a super loud noise in the office is going to get them nervous. And so, yeah, so like I've been very heavily involved with that. And so I'm like, oh, like you guys just can't. they're just totally different spectrums. And
Yeah,
like, finding your support and finding your people is really, really important. I guess that's where I'm going at. Just went in a
yeah,
giant circle.
absolutely. No, 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 absolutely. You broke it down. Um,
Yeah.
and I will say this, I don't know, a little bit off script, but if you hang in there long enough, to all the veterans listening, again, like I said, I was infantry. Before that, I was 88 Mike, which was a truck driver. But if you hang on long enough, you'll start to see those skills that you thought couldn't be implemented into the civilian world, how those things actually did mean something, how those things were carried. For example, me pulling that lady out of a burning car. Nobody
Hmm.
else was going after her. Nobody else out there. Another veteran or a decent human being would have done it. But we're used to seeing
And
fire.
you're
We're
like,
used to seeing something like that.
yeah.
I found a dead body. I found a dead body that was missing for months. I think like,
Wow.
yeah, 2 years ago. And that was from me driving down a road, scanning, like I'm looking for bombs, IEDs, and seeing something out of place. It was a little sliver of a chrome wheel. Jumped off my bike and there was a body in it. Called the cops and the family
Wow.
called and begged me. Heard a scream. It was an old man that fell in his backyard and couldn't get up and was laying there for hours. And this was me doing a DoorDash. Just because I got off and I heard that scream and ran towards it. This old man who was in
Man.
his 80s. And these are all things that happened from my training of me being able to recognize this or say, I should go figure out what's going on there. So it does translate into the civilian world eventually.
Yeah.
Just got to see the signs.
There was, I don't remember who said it, but someone mentioned like, I think it must have been like a Navy SEAL or something that was quoted, but it's like, during times of stress or pressure, it's like you resort to your training.
Yeah.
And that's like what you're saying is, in those intense moments that people would probably freeze and be like, oh, I heard a scream. And then they'll just like, run
Yeah.
off because
Oh,
they
it's
don't
not
know
my
what to do in that
business.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they don't run um towards the
Towards the fire.
problem. It's
Yep.
kind of like those what is it, buffalo or something? It's like I think it's buffalo that they'll run towards the storm instead of
Yeah.
away from it, where most of the animals will run away from it, but they'll
You
just run
just told me
through
something
it
'cause
to get
I
rid of.
did not know that.
What? Oh my!
That's
It's
so
such an
cool.
amazing, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a quote or what, but it's powerful because I'm like, gosh, like that's what you
Yeah.
do. Like if something's there and it's
Yeah.
would be normally scary for other people, it's you do it anyways. Like courage, what
Yeah.
is it? Courage or bravery? You said is you do something even though you're scared.
Even though you're scared. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point, right? It's if I wasn't here and I killed myself all those years ago, that lady would have burned alive in her car. That old man would have probably passed away on the floor, screaming for help. And he
Yeah.
had a house. He had four houses, those trailer parks all around him, and none of those people came out to help him. Um, that body that gave that family closure. This guy was tangled on the side of he was there so long the vines went through the vehicle. You couldn't
Whoa,
see it.
Nelly.
He was just laying there, so that he probably would have never been found. That's how thick it was, and nobody was checking that area. There was a lot of vegetation. These people wouldn't have been helped if it wasn't for the training the military gave me. And I'm sure there's millions of brothers and sisters with similar stories like that that don't realize that's from their training. So
Yeah.
just because you was a gunner and this, that, and the third doesn't mean it can't be implied into the world you're in now and save lives still.
Yeah. I think the big part is that they don't feel like that sense of purpose. And also
Yeah.
the camaraderie. I know that's a huge one, right? But we just touched on like getting involved with people that can
Yeah.
relate to you and getting involved in that veteran community. But I really think that it's like that huge purpose to really where you would not that you have to find a purpose out here to die for, but it's like there isn't really. I mean, yeah, there's, like police officers, they have a huge purpose and they do put
Yeah.
their lives on the line. Like there is people that do that, um, which thank God for them. But a lot of other like positions out here in the civilian world are not that purposeful, where it's like you
Yeah.
are going to be standing on the line with your brothers and sisters and you're going to go hand in hand and you're
Yeah.
going to make sure, you're
down to
you're
your last bullet.
selflessly sacrificing for them and our country. Like there's nothing that is amounts to that. And yeah, I'm sure that takes a toll. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah.
tough. But I mean, like you said, like just the little things that you've not even little, those aren't even little. We're giving you
No.
credit. Those are massive things by helping these people and finding these people for that family and yeah, pulling the lady out of the burning
Well,
car.
again,
Um,
I emphasize, any you would have done it. Any decent person would have done it. It just happened to be me in that moment,
yeah,
and it's not because of me. It's because of the training my brothers and sisters gave me that
yeah,
enabled me to do that. Right? It wasn't. I did it naturally because they taught me how to do it.
yeah.
So, but yeah,
You have a lot of humility. I admire that about you.
you got to stay humble, man. Otherwise, what's the point? You know.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Um, how did you feel when, well, I mean, backstory for everybody else, because I know the story and you know the story because you're part of it. But so you helped this lady out of a burning vehicle. You're riding your Harley, right? To, were you going to a Wounded Warrior Project event or?
Yeah. So it was. It's a Wound Warrior Project. It's kind of like an event. So we were doing Muay Thai, um,
Oh, gotcha.
and it's like a monthly thing that this Muay Thai company decided to group with Wound Warrior Project, so it was free for veterans, along with the meeting that was there. And I was headed in that
Mm,
direction. Uh, and when you're on a motorcycle, you keep your 360 running, right? Well, at least I do. That's your
yeah,
camera. And
yeah.
yeah, no, I pulled up at a stoplight and I see a car behind them and a car in front of this lady. One hit her from behind. She hit the guy in the front of her, and they're just on their
Oh,
phones. They're just on their phones. And when I say there's like traffic for days of not backed up, they're on the side of the road now. Just cars shooting by them. There's about 30
oh
cars
my.
in front of me, and I'm looking at this lady's head just jerking back and forth, and nobody's nobody cares, right? So I jump off the bike and run to, hey, you okay? My leg's broken. My leg's broken. I say, okay. I open up the door, pull her out. Car starting. You're seeing the flames coming out right around her stomach area, right under the tire, whatever it was. I pulled her out. I dropped her on the side of the road. Made sure she was safe and sped off. I don't know this lady's name till this day.
Oh
I'll
man.
send you the link, maybe so you can have a reference for the video itself.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I posted the video, and it wasn't because of saving the woman. I was seconds from killing myself when I made that video because of the fact that nobody cared about the lady that was about to burn alive. I had that feeling again of being so alone, of like, do none of these people care? You know, do none of
Yeah.
these people give a damn about anybody outside of their car insurance? Is this the country that I came back to where a old lady can burn alive and you didn't even bat an eye? And I just wanted to get that message out there of to other veterans, like, eh, go towards that fire. No one's gonna do it but us. That's how it felt, and it was just like, it's again that lonely feeling is nothing like it.
Yeah.
I felt alone. There was a billion people there, and if I didn't do anything, she would have died. It was just sickening, but
Is that disappointing?
extremely, extremely. It's like,
Because I
they
mean, in
got,
the military, I mean, it kind of annoys me, and I'm not even in the military.
yeah,
But it's like it's so. I feel like it would be so disappointing because in the military, like they train you to like have your brothers back, and I mean
yeah,
brothers as in brothers and sisters. So,
absolutely,
but like have your brothers back, and then to come and a lot of respect, and then you come out
yep,
in the civilian world, and it's like meh,
yeah, yeah,
and
exactly, exactly.
it's like
You
this
know,
is what I'm fighting for. I mean,
yeah,
yes, but then also at the same time, it's like, can we do better?
because and it takes you years to realize, that, we say veteran, but we're civilians now too. So it took me
Yeah.
years to kind of embrace the fact that, okay, it's not just me and vets now; it's me and patriots, right? It's me and
Mm,
other human beings, me and civilians, and you mistakenly sometimes put a lot of people in the category of having that same loyalty and that same, we know how valuable life is. You know, if
Mm,
I had a car, I hit a car going 40 miles an hour that cut me off in the road. I wasn't yelling at the lady. I was seeing if she was okay while I was walking away with blood gushing out of me. Um,
yeah.
you really want humanity to have the same uh, understanding of how valuable it is. And I just did a
Yeah.
video that said some of the best places in the world right now have the least amount of people in it, have the least
Mm,
amount of human beings, because the Iraq was honest. That's the real world to us now. This everything else outside of that seems like a dream because we know
yeah.
what's really out there, what people are really going
Like the
through.
raw reality, not
That's
just this. You
yeah,
can go get your
yeah. Let's
frappuccino
go
and
to
go
McDonald's.
shopping and be
Yeah,
all safe, and it's like, oh, you could,
yeah.
you have leftovers,
Meanwhile,
go throw them away. You can go buy a burger.
that's it.
Like,
Meanwhile, we know
yeah,
there's a woman right now getting stoned because she showed her face
yeah,
to death. You know, we know what's out there. So if it's something as small as a woman that's in a car that's starting to burn, might burn her alive, and nobody cares about that. You know, it's almost like why what's the point of being on this earth? So
yeah.
yeah.
Wow, wow. Well, we should probably go back to the finish our story, huh? We just left everybody hanging. So, but that, I mean, that's what's so nice about like doing podcasts is like we could just go on different tangents, and it leads to so many different
Yeah.
places, which is amazing. So you pull her out, and then Wounded Warrior Project partnered with Harley, and then did they surprise you, or did you know that you were going to be getting this
Uh,
motorcycle?
it was so I. Here's the funny part. I didn't know about it, so I had another motorcycle, and that's the bike I was on, which is a Road King.
A Road King?
I had a Road King, and as I'm
Mm.
driving in the morning, it was 6 a.m. So going to a VA appointment. Car decided to not look at the red light and jumped in front of me and totaled my bike, completely totaled
Oh,
it. I honestly every year am scared to death that my bike I have now is going to break down and I won't be able to fix it. I don't know how I'd live without a motorcycle. So I got into a really huge slump of depression that day.
mm.
And the next day, actually got a call from the Warrior Project. Hey, you were selected for a free motorcycle. You know, this is months before we actually got the bike. And it's called the GI series. It's based off of World War II, and they really want you to, have this bike first one off the line. Um, if I didn't get that news, the timing I got, nobody knew that I got in a crash.
Mm.
If I didn't get that news, the timing I got it, I might not have been here right now. So I had to not ride for months, but I knew it was coming, and
Such
that gave
divine
me
timing. My gosh.
insane
Yeah.
timing. But no, I knew about it a week after they made the decision. But it was
Wow.
so ideal, the
That's
time that
so
they
cool.
told me.
You still have it? I mean, it's only been
Oh,
like 2 years, right? Let's see it. What? Look at that beauty.
yep. The other
That's
one's
so
white.
cool. That's so cool.
Well, yeah, that's the story behind that one.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, I'm gonna change it up. So, like listening to different like interviews that you've already done, and just like some of the stuff that you talk about, like you mentioned, like all the stuff that you've gone through, and you would still do it again. And I've heard this not just from you, like I've heard it from other vets. And I'm like, my thought is like, gosh, it is so purposeful that you guys would go through all of this stuff and then still at the end of it be like, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, or I would definitely do it
Every,
again. Like why?
every,
Why for everyone listening? Like why?
because there's nothing like it in the world. Like you said, that camaraderie, having a purpose. You know what? And that's personal preference. I wouldn't have had a purpose. That's how I feel. You know, other people go out to be doctors and grow up to be. I didn't feel like I was smart enough to be those things. Um, but to be a part of something so the country, I'd never seen a country more passionate, left or right, didn't matter. Everybody wanted to protect this country. Um, and it's just something you can't get anywhere else to, stand up, to raise your hand, all those things. That's worth more to me. And it goes back to that other point than my life, you know.
Yeah.
There's more honor in that for me personally, you
Yeah.
know. There's you know, I can't imagine my life without those experiences. They wouldn't have made me who I am today without those experiences. Um, what I have, the story I have now, I wouldn't be helping anybody that experienced that. It's just like you said, it's almost like divine intervention. Like
Yeah.
I just it
Like
wouldn't
this
make
is where
sense
you're
not to.
supposed to be in a sense.
This is where I'm supposed to be, period. And if I didn't join the military, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have met such amazing men and women that served as well, and patriots, if I didn't serve. So yeah, there's a lot of heartbreak and things like that, but there's much more positive, so
Yeah.
much more positive. You get to meet amazing people, and they would never even. I just did a video. War brought us together.
Mm.
My world was so much smaller before I joined the military, and now it's that much larger. And it took a while to see things that way.
Yeah. It's like it's just a shift in perspective. I mean, I
Yeah.
say something similar with like kind of like having gratitude and having a different perspective is like, yeah, would I have been like, oh, I want my brother to take his life? Like, no. Would I
Yeah.
emotionally like want him back? Absolutely, right? But I'm going to take a traumatic event and then I'm going to run with it and I'm going to find
Yeah.
really good things to do because I'm like, the amount of people that I've talked to, the people I'm able to mentor, other siblings, other family, conversations I've had with people I would have never had if I've never experienced this type of grief and this experience and all of that. I'm like, and I want to trade it. Like as much as I would want to and
Yeah.
be like, oh, I would much rather have him back here for sure. But is that possible? No. And like all of this stuff wouldn't have been able to happen. All the people that are impacted, just like you, the amount of impact that you're having on the veteran community, huge, huge.
It,
And
it,
it's
it
just
goes
amazing.
it goes for you as well, and you can relate to this. With your experience with your brother and the experience I've had of the ones that committed suicide and the ones that I've seen pass away and get killed over there. We both are charged in some way, shape, or form with carrying the dead. Right?
Mhm.
He's living through you. They're
Yeah.
living through me. Those other families that have experienced what you experienced are living. You're living. You're a living testament to that, and by
Yeah.
that, you're keeping them alive. So that's a mission too, right? As long as I stay on this earth, they're going to be carried with me. They're going to be talked about with me, and that's
Yeah.
what you're doing as well. So my kids are coming, so you're going to
No,
hear a few
you're good.
barks. But yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, that's I agree with that. Um, I had a question. Now I lost it. I was going to say something about what you were talking about.
Yeah, and again, if you didn't
Mm,
exist and I didn't exist, that would be one less person to say their names, right?
yeah.
So it's a
It's
huge
like that quote
responsibility.
that says, they don't truly die until their name's like the last time their name's said. Yeah.
Exactly,
Did
exactly.
you lose any buddies like personally while you were in or out?
I lost. Well, not from my unit, no. Again, so
Oh,
we worked. The biggest one was the hospital one, and we would just see every. So I knew men and women that
yeah.
died over there that I
Yeah.
met, and they'd come in, and you're sitting there watching them put flags and throughout their body where the holes are, just to this is where he got shot, and you're just watching. I just talked to this guy
Mm,
3 days ago. I've lost two guys to suicide from my unit. They
mm,
decided to go into a house and overdose on heroin together and shot
mm.
themselves up full of it so they could both die. Um, yeah, I've experienced people that have been killed and people that have killed themselves that I've
Yeah.
known. I didn't find out about one of them until a year later. Hey,
Oh, okay.
such and such killed himself, and I've had a few call me, and I shared my experience. I had a guy out there that found out his best friend died and he was going to kill himself. I had to uh,
Mm.
wrestle him and take his M4 away
Oh,
uh, while I was there because he was sitting there crying, holding his, and everybody knew he was about to turn it on himself.
yeah,
So I've seen and experienced people going through traumatic experiences right before
yeah.
my eyes.
I appreciate that you say that they killed themselves because I don't, me personally, and maybe I'm going to get like backlash for it, which is fine, but I really don't, this is my personal preference. I really don't like when people really sugarcoat it because I'm like, as harsh as it is to say like someone killed themselves, that's how harsh it is. It's a horrible thing and it is not something to sugarcoat. It is, it's terrible that this shit is happening. And it's terrible
Yeah.
for the person that is going through it, like the person that has that mental state that they feel like that's the option, as well as the living people around them or their buddies that they lose and all of that. That I'm like, I feel like they don't deserve that, especially the ones that I've lost. Like they don't deserve for us to sugarcoat and be like, oh,
Yeah.
they passed on. Like, nope, I'm very raw. And I know you are pretty raw too. I mean, if
Yeah.
anybody looks at your social media account, like you are very raw in how you showcase what it's like as a
The thought
veteran and
process.
PTSD and trauma and all of that. And so I appreciate that
Well,
you are just so raw about it. I mean, it
you
is,
have you have a right because you have experience to say that, to be blunt about it. um like you said, that mission, now once you said it, the mission I had was to kill myself. There was
mm-hmm,
no, like you said, there was no, I'm gonna unalive myself tomorrow, or I'm gonna not be here anymore. No, I'm going down, I'm killing myself tomorrow. And
yeah,
if that's the thought process, and you've been on literally on right on the other side of that blade, that double-edged sword, we know that's what it is. That's what it was. I think people speaking on it that don't have experiences on either side of the fence there, they can't understand the finality of that statement. Me and you
yeah,
can,
yeah.
so you you better not get flack for that, because you know there's no there, like you said, there's no saying it gently. We killed ourselves. We tried to
Yeah,
kill ourselves, things of that nature.
yeah.
You're right.
I think it's more because I know like maybe some of my family members, but I'm more vocal about saying like he killed himself. One, because I know some people like don't want to open that door, and this is anybody,
Yeah, 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 I
not
got you.
specifically my family, but anybody doesn't want to open that door if they are grieving that type of death. But also, I think it's like that stigma that revolves around suicide, and
Yeah,
I am, I don't know, maybe I'm that stubborn that I'm like, oh, we're gonna work on breaking this because no one talks about it. Like this is bullshit. Like no one talks
yeah,
about it and it's swept under the rug and act like it doesn't exist. But the elephant is in the room. Like it is
yeah,
there and people are hiding it. And um not like I'm trying to give myself praise or anything, but the more that I've talked about it, the more that I've had people come to me and be like, oh, I know someone that did like killed
yeah.
themselves. And I appreciate you talking about it. And my family doesn't talk about it. And I'm like, this is why I am talking about it because
That's it.
it exists. Like we can't pretend that it's not there.
Case in point. Why being blunt is so important, especially on the veterans' families and the veterans themselves, is, say
Mm-hmm.
I share my story, and instead of saying, my brother slept with my wife, I'm going to say something along the lines of, there was a guy and a girl I was seeing, and that's not as impactful as telling you exactly what the
Yeah,
hell happened.
yeah.
It could have
Because
been,
people would be able to relate better if it's
yeah,
very raw and
they
direct.
must have been, yeah, they must have been on a rocky path, and it might just be some girl that he was talking to, and it sucks. No, it's devastating. So why would I water it down? What you're doing, that's
Yeah,
exactly, people need to hear what they were
yeah.
thinking. Some people don't like that. It's like putting them in front
It
of a mirror and they're
hurts.
like, okay, I got to accept this. But
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be helping anybody.
Yeah,
Personally,
and
that's
it
like I said,
hurts.
that's
I
how I
think.
feel.
I agree, and I think it's like you said, like that mirror in front of them, and it really shows like the reality of it, and it's
Yeah.
like. I mean, I know emotions are a very scary thing for a lot of people, and that's
Yeah,
really what it shows. Is it shows the amount of hurt and the amount of pain that it sucks. It sucks to even be down that road where you're in that state of mind and want to kill yourself. And then on the other side, it's like if someone, I've had many people, which is really interesting. I've had many people like through this journey of like my own grief and being open about how it sucks to grieve a suicide
yeah,
and just about grief in general, about veteran suicide, all of that, just all of that encompassing. I've had so many people come to me about their mental health and tell me that they're struggling and that they're like having suicidal ideation and all that. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do, but I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just know how to sit with them and just be like, I can't do anything for you, but you know what I can do is I can sit beside you while you ride this shitstorm out and I'll sit right
yeah,
next to you because that's all I can do. You can
yeah,
ride the shitstorm and I'll sit under the dark cloud with you and I'll show you that there is light through this, but there's nothing I can physically do, or there's nothing that I could actually say other than just kind of being that
yeah,
light for somebody. But it's so interesting because the more, like I said, like the more that I'm vocal about it, the more that I get people from various walks of life that are grieving, and then people that have mental health struggles and stuff. It's interesting
yeah.
where
And you're in
this
the same,
kind of avenue has taken me.
yeah, and you're in the same mission as me, and I see it, right? It's you have to be a voice for those families that have dealt with what you've dealt with, where you
Yeah.
lost a family member to their depression or to whatever struggles they were going through. And you get people that see us and see a successful a venture of that mission, and they get mad at you. And then I recently had to say somebody like, the point of these missions, the one you're on, the one I'm on, is not to be famous; it's to be heard,
Yep.
right? Um,
Oof.
if somebody would have
Mic
just
drop.
listened to, yeah, if somebody would have just listened to you, um, they might have learned something, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
The people you're talking to just want somebody to listen to them. They just want to be heard. They're not trying to, scream it at the top of the mountain so everybody can, hey, look at me. It's just, damn, I wish somebody listened, you know?
Yeah.
If nobody listens, then what was it for? It's not worth anything, you
Yeah.
know? And that experience no longer means anything because no one listened to you. So I'm kind of like jumbling, but you get the idea. It's
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
doing is,
Yeah, for sure. I do want to touch on, I have a few more questions, but
yeah,
you mentioned like you didn't get trained for coming home.
no, yeah,
I think that's a huge one. I think that's like a huge, oh, I don't know if it'd be a misconception, but like when veterans come out and like they're technically civilians,
yeah,
um, they're figuring it out. And so is their family and their friends, and they're like trying to figure out who they are.
yeah.
Um, what I guess my question would be like, what helped you? Was it the camaraderie and getting involved with other vets kind of helped you
Yeah. So
figure
yeah,
yourself out?
well, attempted suicide gave me no choice but to figure out who I was going to be and what I was going to do with my life to keep going. Otherwise, I'd have tried it a third time. Um, yeah, what helped me figure it out was realizing that there might be something. The idea of one person on this planet going through what I went through. Um, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't try to help them. Even if I never
Mm,
see them and they see this video we're having. I I can't live life that way, knowing that I didn't say anything. I feel like I just deviated completely from the question though. Oh,
no, I think it's along the same lines
all
though.
right. Yeah. What helped me is another veteran one day coming up to me. Yeah, that happened to me too, bro. And me like, oh shit, I was right. There are others. Um, you don't. Yeah, I don't know how else to
Is it
word it.
like you said, being the man that you needed at that time, pretty much?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No
Is
one
there
else was going.
anything, do you think that there's anything that like family or friends could do to help that transition to civilian life for a vet?
No, no, I don't.
No.
And it sucks to say. I feel like I'm being so blunt about it, but I don't. I never take advice from somebody you wouldn't want to trade places with.
Mm,
Never take advice from somebody that hasn't experienced the same things you've experienced. That holds true for me. But I'm not going to take advice from somebody about my kids if they don't have any kids. Um,
yeah,
and that holds true to anything, right? When
yeah,
you speak to these families that have experienced what you've experienced, they're going to listen to you because you've experienced it as well,
yeah,
right? And that goes for anything. So no, what helps is that patriotism and that appreciation, even if it's not, even if it's just, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, whatever. That helps because it lets us know that there's some appreciation out there outside of the spectrum of what we've already done, what we promised to do. um, but don't ever feel like it's your job to straighten a vet out or to straighten a family member out. you know it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
Send them to a VFW. Send them to in a location where there are other veterans that are actually working or already integrated into that life. Hey, let's.
yeah,
You want to help a vet? Yeah, that's it. You want to help a veteran? Hey, let's go to this Legion over here, or let's go to this biker event where there's other veterans at, and let's just check it out to have fun. I
yeah,
guarantee you that's a really good way of helping them. They won't even realize it.
yeah.
You know.
And do you think that would that be like your same answer as well? Like if they come home with PTSD or trauma or anything, is to get around another vet?
Mm, yes. Well, no. So it's almost unrealistic in that respect. If I said that, I wasn't able to do that myself. The best thing to do when you get home from that type of environment is not to be set up in your own thoughts, to be alone and let them marinate. Stay busy. I do that to this day. It could be fishing, it could be, I don't know, photography, videography, whatever it is. Stay busy and keep your mind from going there, right?
Yeah,
That's how I was able to put that thought of my family in the back of my head. I stayed busy. I
yeah,
was focused on the mission. Over time, you start to realize you need somebody else in your life. You can't keep doing that. It's not sustainable. But that's the best advice I can do. I can possibly give because I'm living that right now. If I'm
yeah,
not, I'm working out. I'm on my motorcycle. I'm with the kids. I
yeah,
stay busy. When I'm not around my brothers and sisters, everything stops.
yeah. It's like when all gets quiet. And for people that are just like listening, is that I think some people could think, oh, well, if they have PTSD, like they should go get help, kind of thing. And just for people that are listening, it's like processing even grief, but even any type of like trauma, like sometimes we can be processing it while we're fishing, while we're riding our motorcycle, while we're doing these things. That's really where healing really truly is. It's not sitting inside of a
Mhm.
room on a couch talking to someone directly. Yes, that's helpful, but that's not
Yeah.
where like the real raw part of healing is. It's when you're in real life and you're doing these experiences and kind of like you're finding yourself and you're
Yeah.
figuring out who you are in those experiences. And yeah, I think I could just stop
So,
that on that. No.
listen, and then you're right. So the caveat off of that, like we said earlier, nobody could have talked me out of doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
Nobody could have talked me into the mission that I'm on now. I
Yeah,
had to, no matter what, say, oh, come home and start talking to veterans. Or it doesn't work that way. Any change that happens, unfortunately, has to happen not only from within, but at a traumatic point.
yeah,
That's the only time things change and shift and say, oh, I got to do this different, or I got to get some help. It's not going to be when they get home. Everything starts with you. Then it starts to, like you said, sitting on a couch with somebody, and then it goes from that to this, and then, but it all starts from up here. So,
yeah,
first thing to do is get out of your own head and see things from a third world perspective.
yeah. So is that something like family members or friends could help them do it? Is like, oh, hey, like kind of get them out of the house so then they are out of their
Yes,
head kind of thing?
without saying why they're doing it. Like I said, hey, let's
Mm,
go check out this. I heard this bike night. I really want to check it out. Or hey, I heard there was this. I don't know, some random silly thing. They might actually figure. Oh, I like Broadway shows, or I like fishing, or I like rock climbing. I literally like plaques of all horseback riding, whatever it is.
yeah,
Pretend, and this is for the families. Pretend Like it has nothing to do with what you're thinking, more so than let's go do an activity. Keep them busy,
Yeah.
and then they might fall in
Yeah.
love with whatever it is that you guys did together.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think their emotions could kind of get in the way because then it's like they panic, like, oh, I need to help them. And like, I mean,
Yeah,
I see them like that's like you really have to take a step back as like family and friends. Like, you got to take a step back and not, I mean, people
yeah,
could feel it. They could see what you're doing, and especially a
yeah,
veteran. I feel like they'd be like, why are you doing that?
yeah. And for those people like Lisa, the panic. Understand
mm,
that we don't like veterans. Don't like panic. Every mission we do, the only successful mission is the one that's slow and smooth.
mm,
Everything, right? So if you come up to me with anxiety, we need to get you out of here. I'm going to shut down. You need to calm down.
yeah.
Stop, no, stop it.
You're going to
You're
resist it,
freaking me
right? You're
out.
going to
Yeah,
resist
you're
going
freaking me
out
out.
anywhere.
Move calmly. When the kid gets hurt and one of my kids gets hurt and the wife screams, "Oh my God!" Everybody needs to settle down.
Yeah.
What happened? Step by step. So yeah,
Yeah.
if they can just, that's a very. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't even think of that. It's everything you do, move, tread carefully. You know, like you're in a war zone. You're not going to just run across the field. You're going to figure
Yeah.
out how to get. You know,
Yeah.
it's dig a tunnel first. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I can't say that any better. Good
Yeah.
point. Extremely good point.
And there's a lot of loss when you guys get out, aside from like actual buddies and stuff, like the loss of identity, the
Yeah,
one loss of a job, loss of that camaraderie, the purpose. Um, I know you had a lot. I mean, you mentioned, getting around other vets. What would you recommend to anybody else, like any other vet, like how to bounce back from that? Because I don't even think I know I'm going to go on a rant real quick, but even like family members don't understand they come with that baggage as well. It's not just the baggage that they come from the military. They also come with who they are, their
yeah.
job, the loss of friendships. Like they lose a lot of stuff just getting out.
Yeah.
But what would you
So
say
I'm
to them, to the vets at least?
all right. Rephrase the question for me real quick. I lost it as you
Yeah.
was going.
So what would you say to vets when they're getting out and they have that loss of identity, their loss of jobs, their loss of camaraderie and their purpose?
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean, so it's it goes ties back into what we just talked about as far as finding themselves.
Mm,
Right. The best way to do that, it's like when you join the military and you have to take the ASVAB test and you
yeah.
see what you're good at and they see what you're good at and say, well, this is where you fall. You can do this job, that job, that job, that job. Think of life after the military as a giant ASVAB test. And the only way to figure out where your score is at is to try to pass everything. So that ties into that fishing, horseback riding, rock climbing, whatever it is. Explore all those things until you find out where you belong, where you fit. I say that's the biggest thing you can do for yourself in the beginning when you have to figure out who you are. Like you
Mm,
said, a lost identity. Try to find one. You might actually enjoy something. You know,
yeah.
at least say you tried everything first.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't until, I mean, I think I knew my brother was different. Like while he was in, when I would see him, I'm like, oh gosh, like he's just this like man, like I didn't know who he was
Yeah,
and, trying to figure him out. But then when he got out, it was like, whoa, it was like a whole different person. And then, I mean, looking back, I mean, I was young, I was in my early 20s. And so like, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's like, I knew something was different, but I just thought like he kind of had it together because I think I expected him to, especially like he was my older brother, so he was 5 years older than me, and so I expected him to like, especially like as a vet, like you just expect them and hold them to such a higher standard,
yeah,
and I think a lot of families do, and that can be, oh, what's the word, like paralyzing in a way. I feel like for vets, because then it's like, oh, if you're having a hard time, it's like, oh, now they have this high expectation of me to
yeah.
be holding it all
To
together.
outperform. Yeah,
And then it wasn't until, well, after my brother passed, I processed all of it and I was like, oh gosh, he was this different person. But story time, I was watching NCIS, and there was an episode where a vet had PTSD. And then there was a moment where he talks to like his brother and his dad, and he says, you have to love him for who he is now. And like he's
Yeah.
trying to figure out who he is as well. And I was like, of course, I like
Yeah.
bawled my eyes out because I'm like, that was like, that should have been on the front cover of that episode. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is powerful. And so many people
That's yeah,
don't know that.
spot
So
on.
I'm just
Yeah.
telling everybody because it's such a huge thing for the family as well as the veteran to understand. Like, you don't know
It's
who you are. They don't
perfect.
know who you are. And
Yeah.
we're all pretending like we know what we're doing, and we're all trying to figure it out together.
They stopped being the person they knew the moment they had to deploy. I tell you right now.
Mm,
Because they expected that person, oh, I would never leave my family. You changed right in that moment from who you were. You everything you were taught is gone. And now there's a new person having to step forward. So it's spot on. It's not the same person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's
That's
a lot of
heavy.
grief in that. Like, I mean, like I mentioned about the losses, but that's like, that's a lot to process on top of any baggage that you guys come out of the military with. Um, I just have a random question, but did you, like, was your years up to get out, or were you like medically
Oh no
discharged, or
no.
what did that look like?
No. Honorably discharged. My ears were up shortly after the deployment. Say it's so hard to remember. It was 2012. I want to say 7 months. I'm not sure. I'll give you the
Mm,
specs on it actually afterwards.
yeah.
And then my term was up. Honorably discharged. Again, I didn't know I had cancer until a year later in my
Wow.
intestines. Now I have a scar on my stomach and 4 inches removed later and all that other stuff. So there's a lot of things that remind me of where I was. Sometimes it's surreal, right? But
Yeah.
I look at my stomach and I'm like, oh, the burn pits. I can start smelling the fumes.
Gosh.
Um, yeah, it's interesting, but I do it all again. Like you said,
Yeah.
we would do it all again. It was worth it, you
Yeah.
know.
So you mentioned that there's companies that'll send vets to like various activities. Is that the Wounded Warrior Project that does that?
So, well, I'm not like I said, I'm not a spokesperson for them, so I can be
Yeah.
100%. Some states, when it comes to the Wounded Warrior Project, are amazing. There's a lot of activity.
Mm,
Um, where I'm at right now in Alabama, zero activity.
mm,
Everything's online. So, unfortunately, you can't bank on that. But there are a lot of retreats and organizations run by veterans
yeah.
and first responders. You got and I'll say these now: IGY 6 Veterans Benefit. You got Forge Forward. That's with Bobby Hemline. Um, so many foundations and organizations that have retreats for us. Warhorse for Veterans, things like that. So just type in foundation if you're looking for places like that to no itinerary, just finding yourself. You know, we love nature as vets, outward bound, things like that.
Mm,
Wounded Warrior Project is not as integrated in every state as it should be right now. At least that's
okay.
from my experience.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't bank on that more than I would a foundation. You
Okay.
know,
Okay. When did you start
I don't want
riding
to.
your motorcycle? Like,
When did I
did you
start?
always ride, or after you
Yeah,
got out?
I rode a dirt bike in high school and all that other good stuff. Never could afford a Harley Davidson, but um, when I left, I had a dirt bike, and when
Oh,
I
okay.
went back, that was yeah. So that's always been a part of me. That wasn't just from war.
Yeah. Did you do jumps or anything on your dirt bikes?
Oh yeah. I was.
Yeah.
They couldn't have given me a more accurate motorcycle. My favorite color is green. I love going off road. It's a dirt bike slash sport
Yeah.
bike. That way. So yeah, yeah.
What kind is it? I know it's the enthusiast, but is it similar to like another style bike?
It's like a BMW.
Like, is it
So
similar to the Road King, or is it similar to like a
it's
soft cat?
similar
Or
to a dirt bike
oh, really?
times 20.
Wow. Wow.
So it moves and performs like a dirt bike from the wheelies to jumps. I can go over a stack of logs on that thing. It's just a dirt bike for adults.
Yeah,
So
that's so
yeah.
cool. So you have that enthusiast one, and then what's your other one? What's the red one?
Oh, that's wifey's. That's a Honda. I can't get on that one. I'm not allowed.
No,
I'm too rough on it.
don't
That's
even
not
look at
mine.
it.
Yeah, seriously, that's not even mine. I can change the oil on it. That's as far as I get. So
That's
that's
so
hers.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you guys go on big trips together or anything?
um, if it's a big trip, she's on the back of the bike. You know,
Oh, okay.
she's more comfortable short distances with hers.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah,
All
I
right,
think I think I'm getting that wind you was talking about right now.
take it.
So-
Take all of it.
Yeah.
I have to go pick up my kids, so I'm like, ooh, hopefully it's died down now. But
Yeah, I think it's you.
um, my last question, my friend, and I'm sure I hope that this isn't the last time that we chat or anything.
No, not at all.
Um,
Yeah.
you could speak to veterans, you could speak to everybody as a whole, you could speak to their families, whoever you want to speak to. Um, how would you tell them to journey on?
Uh, be the best damn version of yourself. Don't look at somebody else and wow, he looks so happy. I want to be like him. No, the whole part of this journey when we're out is finding out who you are, what you're good at, and what you love to do. Never use another person as an example outside of if they can do this, I can do this too. Don't ever try to be anybody else but yourself. You're just as important. So,
That's great. And then for anybody, I mean, I'll put it in on the description. But do you want to tell them your social media name?
just
Put it
just
in there.
just Google my name. You'll get everything. Facebook and TikTok. It's all under Amarok Critton. And I hope to see you there. It's hard to respond to a lot of people. I sometimes I'm on the phone at 1 o'clock in the morning talking to somebody that I'm following back about them hurting themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm there, and if I see you, I will definitely say hi.
All right. And we're going to end it with one of your quotes is to fight for a reason to keep going and a reason to smile. Thank you.